Live. My name is Rob Dauster. This is a live version of the Dauster and Da'Sean podcast. We are here breaking down West Virginia's loss to Gonzaga in the opening game of the Jimmy V Classic. Da'Sean, I'm sorry about that. I hope you're doing okay. I know you wanted to drink away your sorrows, but hey, look, you know what? We got a live stream to get on, man.
Yeah. Let's get to work.
All right, while we wait for people to kind of populate this a little bit, let me just tell you guys a little bit about Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate apparel brand out of Indianapolis. It's a company that I'm really excited to be partnered with. They have the same vision and love of college athletics and college basketball that we at this podcast network and we at the Field of 68 do. What they do is they go through and they mine all of the old logos and all of the old brands and everything from your teams and your schools and your programs, all the old logos from the last like 20, 30, 40 years. They find those, they redesign them. It's officially licensed, and they put them on T-shirts, they put them on sweatshirts, they put them on hoodies, they put them on joggers, they put them on everything that you could possibly want them on, and they turn those around and they sell that gear to you. I own a bunch of those T-shirts. I don't have one on right now. I've been wearing them every single day this week, and I kind of ran out of clean ones. Eventually, that is going to happen, but they're perfectly comfortable. They're great around the neck. They don't get too loose. You don't get the turkey neck hanging down. They're the perfect tightness around your arms. Nice, soft, comfortable. I couldn't recommend them more. And I promise you this, I would not be partnering with a brand if I did not believe in them. West Virginia fans, if you are listening to this, they do not have you guys licensed just yet. But if you tweet at them at Home Field Apparel, no E in apparel, you could tell them that you want to see more West Virginia gear. And maybe down the road, they'll be able to have options for you. So go to homefieldapparel.com, use the promo code Field of 68, and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. Da'Sean, you are a West Virginia alum. You just watched your team lose a tough one, man. They played really well. So how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling about your Mountaineers?
First of all, I always love my Mountaineers. So shout out to those guys. They played a hard game. Obviously had a great chance to win the game if it wasn't for a couple bonehead plays toward the end of the game, missed free throws. We had a ton of opportunities to win the game. But it's not always the end of the game which gives you the loss. It's the entirety of the game. So we had a good game. You think about this. If you say going into the half that that Oscar and DC would both have 17 points and 17 boards collectively, I would think that we had a really good chance of winning the game, especially the way Gonzaga was playing. And they finished the game off. Oscar had 14, 9 rebounds, and 4 really bad fouls. Derek Culver also had 6. He went 6 for 13, 18 points, 15 boards. He had a great game. And anytime you feel we watch the games and Gabe goes out there, plays as hard as he can. We love Gabe on our team, but he had 10 points. He went 3 for 3. So we're supposed to win this game. And then Miles McBride had a tough one tonight, shooting 4 for 14. Sean McNeil got hit early, started off 0 for 3, and then finished off 1 for 9. And Taz, he played well, but he shot 3 for 9 and had 4 turnovers. So, like, we have those things. I think we had a total of maybe, like, we're over 15, over 16 turnovers. We can't win games like that. And then you add in the missed free throws toward the end. It's just it was very unfortunate.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk a little bit about the fouls and talk about Big Sheeb and go into that storyline a little bit. But before we do, I do want to mention what happened with Jalen Suggs and the injury. Like, first and foremost, I mean, thank goodness that dude is okay, because he's such an exciting talent. And I know that, like, if you're a West Virginia fan, you're probably like, oh yeah, he's out of the game. But I think it's good for the sport that dude is healthy, that he was able to come back, that it turns out maybe he was just exaggerating that injury just a little bit. I'm kidding, Gonzaga fans. I don't want you to jump down my throat there.
I was going to say that.
But I do think that it brings up an important point about this Gonzaga team. And it goes to show you what the actual value of depth is, right? Like, you know this better than anyone, Da'Sean. When it comes to college hoops, like, you don't really need more than a 7-man rotation, maybe 8, to really survive. Like, you're worried about foul trouble and you're worried about a guy spraining an ankle in a game or something like that. That's really all you need beyond the 7 or 8. And I think what this showed you is that even if Gonzaga loses an important piece. They, oh, by the way, have Andrew Nembard, who came off the bench, 19 points, 5 boards, and 6 assists, 8 for 14 shooting. Like, he was terrific going up against one of the best defensive teams in the country. It's an embarrassment of riches. The truth is this. Jalen Suggs did not really have an impact on that game.
No.
And Gonzaga went out and beat what is probably a top 10 team in college basketball.
Yeah. I mean, geez, you brought up Nembhard, which was, I thought, to me, it was the, if not the MVP, the runner-up. Like, him and AA, they went out there 10 for 15. Like, I don't know, like, you have some guys get some baskets. Like, scoring 10 field goals in a game is not easy. So, like, watching these guys, they offensively, they have an arsenal of weapons. You know, Timmy, once again, didn't play his best. 17 still. 3 boards. I wish he could do a little bit better on the boards, like as a player watching another player. But he had 17. Kisper had 19. But we just said he had 21. And how many did Nembhard have exactly again?
He finished with 19. He had 19, 5 boards, 6 assists coming off the bench. He was sensational.
And they're a great team offensively. The one thing I wished, because obviously I don't need to wish anything for Gonzaga, they won the game and they won it in great fashion. The only thing I wish is and I think I tweeted it earlier, it's just like Gonzaga took advantage of West Virginia not taking advantage of their height advantage. Like, it was insane to have Oscar Tshiebwe out there with Derek Culver. And a lot of I love Kisper. Kisper is tough, tough as nails. One of my guys was texting me during the game. I was like, yo, shut up. I know how good he is. He's crafty, an amazing shooter, great senior leader in their team. If Derek Culver was scoring the ball at certain points in the game pretty easily on Timmy, there's no reason why he couldn't score the ball like that on Kisper, or Oscar couldn't get the ball to score the ball on Kisper. I just felt we didn't do – when I say we, I'm talking about my West Virginia faithfuls. We didn't do a good job of taking advantage of that mismatch. I feel like we had a big mismatch in the boards, a big mismatch in the height and strength. And obviously we showed it. We demonstrated in the first half. The foul trouble doesn't help, obviously. But I just thought we could have did a better job of exploiting that size, that size mismatch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the foul trouble that cost them, right? Yeah, because Gonzaga kind of made that run when Big Sheev had to come out of the game. And, like, the thing about Oscar Tshiebwe, like, I mean, that dude blows up everything that they want to do offensively. Like, what Gonzaga wants to run is basically ball screen continuity, which we talked about this last week. Is you run a ball screen on one side of the floor, guys move on the other side of the floor, you run another ball screen, guys move around on the other side of the floor, you run another ball screen. And the way the offense is built is so that you get ball screen after ball screen after ball screen on the empty side of the floor. And Big Sheev, the way that he can move his feet, I didn't remember how mobile he was, but he was blowing up everything. Like, he was getting in passing lanes 40 feet away from the rim, not letting the ball reverse to Drew Timme. Like, how many dudes that are 6'10", 260 pounds can do that? There's not many.
Not many. And to your point, to see him be able to do those things and then to see those fouls happen, it just lets you know something's off. The lack of focus, maybe. Is it a lazy moment or not? We don't know exactly just watching the game. Like, he has so much upside, and you can, once again, you named it, seeing those things in the game. It sucks that we have him out in the court for a little bit of time, and then still 14-9, man. Like we got him on the floor for a little bit, 14-9, and he still had he was a major piece in almost pulling off a win. And we keep him on the court the entire game. Who knows how the game goes, but hopefully the guys can. You don't like to learn from a loss. It's always good. Like Hugs always says, you don't need to lose to learn. But these guys lost the game today. Hopefully they can figure out their mistakes tomorrow and then become a better team after that, because they played a very great number 1 team in the country today.
Yeah, I mean, some of the fouls, like Derek Culver had 2, and I think Jay Billis actually pointed it out on the broadcast, but he had 2 where Timmy came down and put a drop step on him, and he reached and just slapped like this. And it's just soft little ticky-tack fouls. Like, if you have to understand, one, you are West Virginia and you play a certain style and you play with a certain level of physicality, and that is going to draw extra whistles from the referees. You can complain about it if you want. Maybe it's unfair, but like, that's just an undeniable fact that West Virginia has a reputation, and you have to be aware of that. And you have to play into that reputation, if that makes sense. The other
Yeah.
part of it is like you have to be smarter. Like it was almost back-to-back possessions. He did the exact same thing, got a foul called the exact same way both times. Like Derek Culver's got to be better than that to be able to stay on the floor. And two, Big Sheep, like some of them, I think he probably legitimately had like 3.5 fouls, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
But like the last one that he picked up, like you can't do that. You have to know the situation, right? You have to be able to stay on the floor. You're so important to what you do. So
foul. Like it was tough to watch. And to your point, I feel like a lot of the guys had those fouls during the game where they were just like, I think Emmett Matthews had one where he ran by somebody and just grabbed their arm, but didn't like stop them from getting a layup. They had about like 3-and-1s on plays like that where they got 3-and-1s on plays like that where guys didn't like, if you're going to foul, but don't just like run by and slap. And then you look at the ref, like what happened? Like we see you on camera slapping down and not making it a good foul. So, I mean, Gonzaga played tough, earned a great win against a great team. And it proved to me by far they might finish out undefeated.
Are you buying me yet that they're the best team in the country?
Baylor. I got to see them against Baylor first, but if after the Baylor thing, I might have to just shake your hand. And you have a great take on Gonzaga.
So I was the last thing I do want to say about Gonzaga, and then we can move on. Is like we know what Jalen Suggs brings them. We talked about the value of having like an Andrew Nembhard and that depth, and the fact that there are basically like. Look, Joel Ayayi can play the point if you need him to play the point.
Yes.
Andrew Nembhard is a point guard at heart, and they are for when Gonzaga has their best 5 on the floor. That's your 2 and that's your 3, Joel Ayayi and Andrew Nembhard. So they have a wealth of playmakers that just makes them so dangerous. Drew Timme, you talked about him last week, his mobility, the way he can handle the ball. Like, did you see him bringing it up? Like he's over there, he's doing Zag drills, going behind the back, putting the ball between his legs at 6'10". What is that? What is that? But to me, there were 2 things that I thought were really important. One, Omar Ballo looks like he's going to be able to contribute this year. Yeah. And that dude's got talent. Like he was, I remember Da'Sean, I watched him in the 2019 U19s, and I think it was the FIBA, the World Cup for the U19. I can never remember. I can't keep those international tournaments straight. But I watched him play for Mali. I think it's Mali. And he was awesome in that tournament. So I've had expectations for him since then. And he hasn't always lived up to him, but it looked like he could be that guy. The other part of it is Anton Watson.
Yeah.
I had some concerns heading into this game. I thought that was a matchup that West Virginia would be able to exploit. And he didn't really put up the stats, and he fouled out, but he took a couple really important charges. He really battled on the glass and kept some balls alive. And I thought that he was generally a net positive when he was out there, allowing them to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more physical without losing like the switchability and kind of a little bit of the versatility that he brings. So you don't necessarily have to play 2 bigs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, when you have Suggs out, you have to give Timme a break. You have to give Kispert a break. What can you say? The other guys came in. The guys came in the game and they stepped up and they kept the team in it and just enough so everybody can come back in and contribute and do everything they need to do. Suggs comes back in the game, gives their team a spark, and I mean they end up pulling out a win, man. And then they have another top team under their belt, another top 25 team win under their belt. So, man, hats off to Coach Few, great coach.
So let's talk a little bit about Illinois and Baylor because that game is going to be tipping off here. Like 10 minutes or so. Where do you stand on Baylor? Where do you stand on Illinois? Are you with me that this is a battle between 2 of the best guards in the country in Jared Butler and Ayo Dosunmu?
I'm with you on 2 of the best guards battling tonight. The pace is going to be, like I said before in the last show, the pace is going to be the key to the game. Is Illinois going to run them into the ground, or is Butler and Baylor going to take their time and just slowly walk them down? So like I'm excited for the game, man. Like it's gonna be a battle of the preference, which team is gonna impose their will. So I'm excited, man.
So I think the key to this game is going to end up being how Illinois handles that no middle defense that Baylor plays. Like it's. I don't know how often you saw it when you were in college, Da'Sean. When I was in school, this is the way that we played. right? So it took me a while to realize that like it wasn't normal to try to force everybody to the baseline.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see how Brad Underwood deals with it, because obviously Brad was in the Big 12 at one point.
Yeah.
But when he was there, like Baylor wasn't running this. They were playing that like 1-1-3 zone, whatever Scott Drew was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I remember.
Right. So I think the way that you beat this no middle defense is to put shooters around the perimeter and kind of let your playmaker give him that open space of the floor, space everything out on the other side, let him drive and pick out a pass when the help comes. The only way they could do that, though, is I think you have to pull Kofi Cockburn off the floor, which is like, will you be willing to take off your second best player if it's something that kind of helps you win a game in a specific matchup? So I don't know. I don't know if Brad's the kind of guy that will do that, but I do think he's a very smart coach, and smart coaches tend to be guys that do things that help their teams win.
Yeah, not to mention, just like you said, if you find a matchup or something that you could possibly exploit or gives your team the advantage, I mean, it's professionals do this all the time, man. Coaches do this all the time. So if they can make those adjustments to win, I mean, they got a good chance to win the game. I'm hoping Baylor gets back in transition, man, because if they don't, it's going to be a show.
Yeah, I want to –
runs, bro. Him and Miller, they run. Cochran, they run. So if they don't get back, it could be an issue. But if they do, you can't knock the two defensive All-Americans that Baylor have in the half court. Like I don't see the half court offense. No disrespect to Illinois, but the most damage I've seen them do against the teams they played, not to mention they haven't played any, big teams. And then the last team they played, I mean, was that Ohio?
Yeah.
They Ohio gave them a run for their money. So this is their first, real matchup for the season. I don't know, like if they don't get running and they get in the half court, I'm not sure that half court offense can hold up against those 2 to 3 defensive All-Americans that Baylor has. And that chemistry.
That matchup between Io and Davion Mitchell is going to be the best one-on-one battle I think that we see all season long. Like Io is a stud. He's a junior. Davion Mitchell might be the best on-ball defender this side of Marcus Garrett. He's a senior. Like that is a great individual matchup that we're getting in the first week of the college basketball season. The only other point that I do want to make is this Baylor team is going to look different than last year. Last year they always had 2 bigs on the floor.
Yeah.
Assuming that you call like Mark Vital a big, even though he's like 6'4".
Yeah, he's 6'4".
I'll tell you what, man, he is the most athletic jelly donut I've ever seen in my life. Like that dude, I love watching him play so much. Like, because you look at the box score at the end of the game and he's taking like 2 shots and he's got like 7 rebounds. Wow. But he impacts winning as much as anybody else on that Baylor team. But he's gonna spend a lot of time playing the 5 for Baylor this year. There's a lot of times where they go kind of 4 guards with a 6'5" center, and those boys can shoot. Flagler, LJ Cryer, they got some guys coming off the bench that can really, really fill it up. So I will be curious to see how Illinois deals with that. Like I don't think that they've run into a team that has as many guys around the perimeter that can knock down shots. And again, it's going to make it tough to keep Kofi Cockburn on the floor.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying small ball. It's not easy, especially for big guys. I mean, as much as they run, Illinois runs, it's still not the same when you gotta keep up with an offensive player that's a little bit smaller than you and faster, quicker. So
yeah. The only other game that I wanted to talk about before we get out of here is Texas has really turned things around. That's another Big 12 team for you. They went out and they beat North Carolina today. They were up by 16 in the first half. They blew that lead, but then Nat Coleman, the senior point guard, came through. Tough step back jumper with 0.1 seconds left on the clock. How frustrating is that? It's a title game in the Maui Invitational, and you take a shot at the end, and it goes in, and there's 0.1 seconds left on the clock, and you don't get that buzzer beater. I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed if I didn't get that buzzer beater.
I kind of feel like, I mean, he had it going all game. So
yeah,
you got to live and die with that. I mean, if I'm a coach and I'm sitting there, I'm basically the guy that's been doing work the last 2 to 3 games, and he's rolling, I'm rolling with my guy. Shaka Smart, of all people at the moment, needs to roll with his players and trust his guys so they can carry him, because this is the season. I mean, everybody's expecting big things from them. They were expecting big things from Texas in general. Things didn't work out the way they were supposed to last season. They're coming out really well this year. They beat a good North Carolina team today. So I gotta roll with Coleman, bro. I would have let him go. If you don't make it, you don't make it. If he makes it, it's all good either way. There's nothing you can do about it. Trust me.
I think Shaka made the right call there on who to go with for the shot. How do you feel about the hair?
Man, guess what? As a basketball basketball player overseas, your hair sometimes goes all over the place. If you're not if you're not in the right country, sometimes your hair goes all over the place. So I'm all for letting Shaka do what he needs to do with his hair. They got a nice little win streak going. He got a nice vibe with his team going. Go ahead, let it go. Let the wavy hair, all that stuff he's doing, let it go. Go ahead, Shaka.
I mean that's 100% lettuce is what he's got right there. That is lettuce through and through. He can't cut it now.
Wow.
You cannot cut it now.
Nah,
he cannot cut that hair
until they lose. Like they got to lose really bad for him to cut it. Then but until then, let it rock, bro.
You know who he kind of looks like with the hair? So he's always gotten like the Nick Wright from Fox Sports 1. Everyone always says that Nick Wright and Shaka look exactly the same. And now Gary Parrish, friend of the program, says that he thinks that that Shaka looks like Zach De La Rocha from the lead singer from Rage Against the Machine. But I think that one's wrong too. I think what Shaka needs to do is slick it back, throw it into a ponytail, right, and go full Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton. Have you seen Hamilton?
No, I have not seen Hamilton. But do you think he could get that in a ponytail? Are you positive?
I think he's got to let it grow a little bit more, which is what I'm saying. Like if they keep winning, you grow that thing out, and then all of a sudden he's going to be coming out there on on games. I am Alexander Hamilton.
He can't do it. I feel like if it gets to a certain point, he has to cut it. We all got to let things go.
Hey, look, you know what? If they're 14-0 and they're halfway through Big 12 play, like and he cuts his hair, we're gonna have a problem. I'm gonna have to have a conversation with him and teach him a little bit about what it takes to be lucky in the sport of basketball. No, in all seriousness though, when it comes to Texas, I always feel like I made this point earlier with Goodman, right?
Yeah.
Texas always kind of feels like when you're in college and you go back home for Thanksgiving or winter break and you see your old high school girlfriend, and like for a couple weeks it sparks up again and you got that little thing when you're back home. And then you go back to school and like January comes around, conference season starts, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why me and her didn't work out. That's why we didn't stay together when we went to college. And that's what Texas is for me. Every year at the start of the year, I buy into the idea like this is the year that Shaka Smart puts it together. This is the year that Shaka Smart puts it together. He's going to figure it out this season. And I swore to myself I was not going to do that this year. And you know what I'm about to do, Da'Sean? I'm about to tell you why this is the year that Shaka Smart puts it all together. Give me your opinion on this, because I think this is the difference. One, all their guys have really bought into their roles. Like I think what really stood out to me during that Maui Invitational is Kamaka Hepa, who started 10 games last year and who was asked to redshirt this season in a year where you don't have a season of eligibility to get burned. He's on the sideline going nuts, like cheering his guys on, screaming. Like every time they pan to the Texas sideline, he's like standing up and clapping and yelling and cheering his guys on, like going full Myers Leonard in the NBA bubble. Remember that when he was with the Heat? So that tells me that there's a level of camaraderie within that roster that I think you need to have success in college. And the other part of it is that with Greg Brown, with Kai Jones, you have two dudes that are going to be elite defenders that can also step out and hit threes, that can also beat people off the dribble, that are both lob targets, that give you so much versatility in what Shaka wants to do offensively. Because he always wants to go with that spread ball screen. Like he ain't running complicated stuff offensively. He's giving it to he's got senior guards. He's going to put his guards in ball screen. He's going to space them with shooters, and he's going to say, go make a play. Like that's what their offense is. It's not super complicated. But now he has senior guards like your boy Matt Coleman, like Courtney Ramey, like Andrew Jones that can make those plays. He's got bigs, and that's not just those two guys, Greg Brown and Kai Jones. Like Jericho Sims is a freak. Royce Ham is a freak. Like those dudes you throw it up, they're going to go get it no matter where it is. So to me, that's why I'm kind of all the way in on Texas this year. It's the versatility. It's the senior guards. It's that they finally have bigs that can play the way that Shaka wants to play, and he can put them all on the floor together. That's kind of my take on it.
Piggybacking off of what you just said, I like the way they look. And the main reason I do like the way they look is because of the minutes, though. Like last year, that was like a big thing. I know we talked about that before. I want to say in our very first couple episodes, the minutes were just so stretched. They had like 10. They're trying to play 10 guys type deal, and then you started to see it last year. They started to play a lot better when they cut the minutes down and played. I want to say like 7, 8 guys. This year, I mean, they're playing a good amount of guys, but they're playing a lot of minutes for the guys that start. And maybe like six man or so. Like everyone else is in the teens, which is good right now. I think that's a good a rotation.
Good number, good mix.
Number to have. You know, you got 25 minutes and plus for like 6 guys, and then the rest of the guys are in the like 14, 15s. And I feel like that's good for him. You keep your team happy that way, guys, especially when you have guys like you just mentioned, can redshirt and still be supportive. That camaraderie within the group. In those minutes, it gives the opportunity for, you know, guys to showcase what they can do, and everyone's happy. Everybody eats. So
yeah,
I will jump on the bandwagon with you until otherwise.
Yeah, I do think though that it is worth pointing out that we've now on this podcast talked about 4 different teams that we thought were really, really good from the Big 12. You know, we talked about Kansas, and I still think Kansas is a really good team. Yeah. We talked about Texas. We've talked about your Mountaineers. We talked about Baylor, and we talked about someone else that I'm blanking on right now. Texas Tech. Talked about Texas Tech. Yeah. So there's 5 really good teams in that conference at the top of the league. Again, it feels like that league, as much as anyone in the country, is always as balanced as anyone. Like I didn't even mention Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State, who just went into Milwaukee and knocked off Marquette the other day.
That was an impressive game by Cade Cunningham, honestly. I'm not going to lie to you. He was all over the court, like doing whatever he wanted, posting up, sealing. Like it was a very good game he had in Marquette, man. So
yeah,
shout out to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, is it?
Yeah. All right. Well, Illinois and Baylor are kicking off here. I think we've covered about everything that we possibly could cover when it comes to Gonzaga, West Virginia, and Texas and North Carolina. The last thing I will say is this, and then we can get out of here, Da'Sean, is that I'm worried about North Carolina in the sense that my concern with them was they didn't have wings, and nothing about their performance in the Mashville Invitational, not the Maui, not the Asheville, the Mashville Invitational. Nothing about what happened down there makes me feel more comfortable about their wing play. So I'm definitely worried about them kind of going forward, right? Like in the sense that I think they're more of a top 25 team instead of a top 10 team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd have to, if I can just lump 2 teams, I'm kind of worried about Duke and UNC. Like after, like I've never seen a performance like that the other night, last night, where we were talking about what 30% from the field, like at Cameron, and like I'm worried about the ACC, the juggernauts of the ACC. So it's
they're all having trouble, man. North Carolina,
North
Carolina, Duke, and Virginia are all. Hey, the ACC is a football conference now, and
right here, it's a tough fight. Must be a tough fight.
All right. Da'Sean, man, listen, thank you for joining me. Everyone that tuned in, thank you for watching. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. And if you have gotten this far in the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, do all those things that make us happy as podcasters. All of that stuff really does help us in the metrics. It helps us in the ratings, and it'll help us get our name out there a little bit. And that's what we're trying to do. So Da'Sean, appreciate you, brother. We'll catch up again next week.